Finally, my Mustang Mach-E has arrived. Yes, it's not quite a Mustang, but it has some Mustang touches, and it sure is fun to drive. Shall we go for a ride?
This is TWiT. This episode of Hands on Tech is brought to you by Casper. When it comes to a better night's sleep, Casper's new cooling collection has you covered. Focus on tomorrow. Let Casper handle the rest. Explore Casper's products, mattresses, sheets, pillows, and more at casper.com/twit1 and use the code TWIT1 for $100 off select mattresses. Offer excludes the snow mattresses. See casper.com for more details.
For the last few years, auto manufacturers have made what we call compliance cars. That is, cars that are basically their gas cars electrified to respond to federal and state emissions requirements. That's been the case with Ford until now. For the first time ever, Ford designed a car, an electric car, from the ground up. I heard about it in late 2019. In fact, ordered it in 2019. And finally, my Mustang Mach-E has arrived a little more than a year later. Here it is. And I have to say, it is beautiful. Yes, it's not quite a Mustang, but it has some Mustang touches, and it sure is fun to drive. Now, I'm going to explain that due to COVID requirements, I'm recording this by myself with an Insta360 360-degree camera, so if it looks a little odd from time to time, that's why. But I thought I'd give you a tour of the Mustang Mach-E. First, some specs. They range in price from around $40,000 to $60,000, depending, of course, you still get federal tax breaks because they haven't sold 200,000 as Tesla has. You also will get a state tax break in some states. This is the first edition. I ordered that one because that was going to be the first to be released. And so the first edition Ford Mach-E was a little bit more expensive. I think $59,000 list. After federal and state tax breaks, it came out a little bit less, more like $50,000. Of course, then you add the federal and state taxes, and it ends up back at $60,000. It's a beautiful vehicle. I have to say, I'm very happy with it. And there are some Mustang touches. You know, I had a Mustang GT 5.0 about 10 years ago, and there are certain things I recognize. For instance, this hood, the way the aerodynamics work on the hood, very much has a Mustang feel. And of course, there's a pony on the front. In fact, there's ponies all over this car. It doesn't say Ford. It's a Mustang. On the side, you can see it says Mustang Mach-E 4X. No idea what that means. Well, I kind of do. It's a dual engine, so it's four-wheel drive. There's an engine in the front axle and the back axle. It also has an extended battery pack. That's an 88 kilowatt hour pack. And with the average of my driving, which is, you know, around 3 miles per kilowatt hour, I should get a range of about 250, 260 miles. So far, I haven't seen that yet. Some of the car reviewers, like Edmunds, say that the extended battery pack even gets as much as 300 miles. That's one area where Tesla still has the lead. They're the kings of efficiency when it comes to automobiles. But I'm happy with a range between 200 and 300 miles. That's plenty for me. Most of the time, it's just a commute car. There were some benefits to getting the first edition. You could see the red brake calipers. Kind of silly. It's a premium sound system. Sounds really good. Fun stitching on the seats. There's red stitching on the black pleather seats. Leather was not available as an option. The door configuration is a little bit odd. These Teslas don't have handles. As you can see, there's no door handles, there's no door appliances of any kind. That's for aerodynamics, Ford says. But they do have buttons which open the door. And you'll notice a keypad, which, if you forget your key, makes it a lot easier. Actually, let's talk about the key a little bit. The Ford Mustang Mach-E comes with one fob, just one, which is not great for a family, and it's kind of a traditional fob. But Ford also supports something they call Phone as a Key, or PAK. Phone as a Key lets you take your Android or iPhone, pair it to the car, and then use it to get into the car. Early Mach-E's have had some problems with PAK. My PAK works about half the time, which gives you some anxiety. I carry the fob with me as a result. But I'm sure with firmware updates over time, Ford's going to fix that. That's a little bit of a downside. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, it's the only software downside in this whole car. So I press this button to open it because I have the fob or phone in my pocket. You You see the door opens a little bit, and then there's a tiny little handle on here that I can grab to pull it out of the rest of the way. When I'm opening the back doors, there's no handle. It just opens part of the way, and you grip the door to pull it open, which is fine. Inside, it is, I think, a very, very good-looking car. These seats remind me a lot of my Mustang, although there's one difference. It's a higher seat, and it's a lot easier to get into. In fact, one of the reasons I gave up the Mustang is, as I've gotten older, it's gotten harder and harder to get into these muscle cars. Because it's an electric vehicle, there's no engine in the front. there's a frunk, and in the early Ford Mach-E's, there was a little bit of a problem with this frunk. The software hadn't yet been updated to make it easy to get out of the frunk if you got stuck in it. So they've put in these kind of cheesy partitions that make it impossible for a child to get in here and accidentally get stuck in here. There is a release button, but the software needs to be updated. And at that point, I'm told Ford will give us a way to take these inserts out. These inserts aren't great because they make it hard to put in grocery bags and other things you might want to put in a frunk. There is a nice feature on this frunk. It has a drain. You probably can't see it, but there's a drain in there, which means you could load these partitions up with ice and beer and soda pops. It'd be great for tailgating. I guess that's Ford's idea. Let's go look at the back of the car. I like this rear gate, automated rear gate entry. All I have to do is put my foot underneath it, and the rear gate will open automatically, which is great for loading up groceries. A lot of capacity on this car. Both these seats fold down, so like any kind of crossover vehicle, you know, much like my Tesla Model X, for instance, you've got a lot of capacity for storage. I think it's a very comfortable car with some really nice features. This is where Ford has a little advantage over Tesla as a legacy automaker. Ford knows how to, as my friend Sam Ed would say, bend metal. They're a good metal bender. So the body is really nice. Fit and finish is excellent. There were no defects on delivery, unlike some Teslas. Everything worked beautifully. The traditional car stuff worked beautifully out of the box. Shall we go for a ride? You want to get in? All right, we're in. First of all, this is where Ford has, I think, a real advantage over a startup like Tesla. They know how to make interiors. They know how to make cabins. The controls are logical. It feels, in fact, a lot like my old Mustang. Again, it's a crossover. It's not a Mustang. It's not a sports car, but it's very comfortable, well designed. The headrests are good. There's pedals here for me to rest my feet on. There's an armrest here. There's a cup holder. And maybe even more importantly, the ride is very comfortable and very quiet. In fact, it's so quiet that Ford allows you to turn on propulsion noises, I guess to make the owners of gas vehicles happier. I had them on briefly. They're not very loud. And honestly, why would I want more noise in the cabin, not less? We started up with this. This is the power start button. If I've got the phone on me with the phone as a key, or I've got a fob on me, it just starts. There's nothing else to do. I'll put on the seatbelt now too. Ford designed sounds like the one you're hearing right now, specifically for the Mustang. They wanted to give it the feeling of a kind of modern electric car. And there are a lot of special sounds. There's even, watch, I'll put it in reverse. This dial here is what takes the place of a gear shift. At first, I was a little worried that this might not be as clear or as easy to use. In fact, it really is. It's park. That's the mode it'll be in when the car is off and when you first turn it on. Reverse, which turns on the camera, the reverse camera, as you can see, and the cameras are great on this. There's the overhead view, getting a wide angle, actually pretty much a fisheye shot from the side mirrors to give me a simulated overhead view. But boy, that makes it easy for a lot of tight spots and parking and so forth. There's the rear camera. I could put it in neutral. You'll do that for towing and car washes, things like that. You hardly ever use it. Drive is what you'll be in almost all the time. It's an electric vehicle, so there's no gear shift. It's just on or off. This L mode, they say, is for going down hills. I think it just really turns up the regenerative braking a little bit. It's not a noticeable difference. So I stick and drive most of the time. Let's show you the sound, though. You'll hear when I'm backing up. It's kind of like the backup chimes you hear on a truck or something like that. The car is designed, and I think this is because of federal safety standards, to make noise at low speeds so that pedestrians can hear you coming, to make noises when it's backing up. Some people don't like that, but I think it's a reasonable safety requirement. The car itself is so very quiet, I don't worry much about it. Let's take a look at some of the controls here. One of the things is clearly a nod to, an homage to, or a ripoff of Tesla, depending on your point of view, this big screen in the middle, about the same size as a 17-inch screen on the Tesla Model S's and X's, but it's really nicely designed. For one thing, unlike the Model S and the Model X, it supports CarPlay. In fact, it supports wireless CarPlay. Here's my iPhone, and I can put it right here on this pad. You see there's room for 2 phones there, and it'll actually start charging wirelessly. Plus, I didn't have to connect the phone to get wireless CarPlay or Android Auto to work. That's a really cool feature. I'm using Apple's CarPlay right now, and you can see with this big screen, CarPlay is big icons. It's actually very easy to use. You can use Apple Maps if you want, or you can use Waze. The car itself has its own built-in maps and navigation, which I guess is there for people who don't have a smartphone. But honestly, why wouldn't you want to use Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze instead? They're always up to date. They have all the features of Google Maps. Here's Google Maps, which I mostly use for navigation, and it's great. The car itself has its own LTE connection to the outside world. Currently, it's free. Eventually, after 3 years, you may have to pay a subscription. But of course, because my phone has its own LTE connection, I'm getting these maps from my phone's LTE connection, and that's just fine. The car also has Wi-Fi built in, and that's useful for 2 reasons. Of course, if there's somebody in the back seat who doesn't have an internet connection, it'll use the car's LTE connection on a Wi-Fi signal. But also, when I park it or when I'm next to work, anywhere within a strong Wi-Fi signal, it can use the Wi-Fi to auto update. This car, like Tesla, does get over-the-air auto updates. We already have our first one, and I think over time Ford will take advantage of that to fix bugs, but also to add features. They promise later in the year, for instance, to add full autonomy on the highway. Right now, I'm very happy with the amount of autonomy the car has, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let me show you some more of this interface, though, while we've got it open. So there's CarPlay, and I just think it works fantastic. Below it, Ford has put this customizable card tray. These apps change depending on what you use the most. So the idea is it makes it very easy to get to the things you use the most. You can also shrink it if you don't want to see it very much. Then it's just little buttons. It does not, however, expand the CarPlay interface, so there's not a lot of reasons to do that. And then down below is climate control. And the climate control is very straightforward. There's seat heaters. There's a steering wheel heater on this, the first edition. I can control fans. I have defrosting as well. And then there's the auto climate control, 3 separate stages on that, and you can set the temperatures independently. I like these gauges. I think they've really done a nice job integrating the software and the screen into the car's systems. I would argue even a better job than Tesla. I love it that I have Android Auto and CarPlay. That really beats the pants off of Tesla's homegrown media system. Let's see, what else can I show you? Oh, this knob. That's one of the things everybody's paid a lot of attention to. This is a touch screen. It's a big touch screen. It's a normal touch screen. The way Ford added this volume control knob is basically gluing a knob on here that has underneath it capacitive touch pads. So in effect, it's rotating the screen for you. Honestly, I don't really need the knob. There's a volume control in the steering wheel. It's much more convenient to use. It's there. It doesn't get in the way. I think it's a nice touch. It's kind of one of the things that tells you this is a Mach-E. Let's take a look at the settings, though. You'll see that much like the Tesla, there are a lot of settings. One of the things that's a little different on this Ford, Tesla has this, is, in fact, most electric cars do, is 3 different driving modes. I'm in what they call unbridled mode, which means I have the fastest possible acceleration and strong regenerative braking, which means I'm charging the battery when I take my foot off the accelerator pedal. The regenerative braking, especially in unbridled mode, is so good that I can do one pedal driving. That is a feature you can turn on or off, but it means instead of using the brake when I'm coming to a stop sign, I can just take my foot off the accelerator and the car slows down and stops. I love that. It's charging up my battery. Single pedal driving is something that takes a little getting used to, but I'm used to it now from the Tesla and from our Chevy Bolt. I love that. I think that's a feature all electric vehicles should have, one pedal driving. There's also engage mode, which I think is the middle of the road mode that I think a lot of people will want. You see, I can turn off one pedal drive on this. And then there's whisper mode, which they say is the quietest, calmest. Let me read their description. Seamless drive, calm and quiet. There isn't a huge difference between these. I want the most acceleration. That's one of the reasons I like electric vehicles is they're high torque, even from 0 miles an hour. It picks up really quick. You get the best in unbridled. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't really impact the mileage or the range of the vehicle. You'll notice this button down here on all 3 modes, propulsion sound. If I turn it on, maybe you'll hear it, maybe you don't. I barely hear it. There's very slight Mustang style exhaust sounds, things like that. It's different for each mode. In unbridled, it's the more Mustang-y. In whisper, it's more electronic. You know, I used it for a little bit. I turned it off because I like the quiet of this car. That's drive modes. There's also, as I mentioned, the camera. Look at how great that is. And you have a variety of different settings that'll allow you to see, for instance, the sensors all around it. This thing is absolutely loaded with sensors, which makes it very easy to park. You get sounds, as you approach something. This has active park assist, and it will actually parallel park the car if you want. I never used that on my Tesla. I haven't used it on this. I guess I'm old school. I just don't trust the car to park itself. I'm sure it's going to do a better job parallel parking than I am. But hey, I'm used to doing that. This is just more features accessing the charge cord, the charge port light. Driver assistance, their basic settings are auto hold. That means the car will actually turn on the power or the emergency brake when you're on a hill or when you're at a stoplight, so it won't roll. I always leave that on. Traction control, same thing. Each wheel is independently measured, and so it can help you stay out of skids with traction control. But watch this. When I turn on additional settings and go to the settings tab, there are a lot more driver assistance features. Ford's wise probably to hide these, to collapse these, because there is a lot in here. This is the driver assistance. It's not self-driving in the way a Tesla claims to be, but it's very similar to a Tesla. It has adaptive cruise control, which will slow and come to a stop when the car in front of me does, and then start driving again when the car in front of me does. That's great for stop and go traffic. It has lane keeping, which means that as the lanes curve, it will curve. You do have to keep your hands on the wheel. And down the road, when Ford adds the self-driving feature, look at this. This is actually a camera system, much like in the Cadillac CTS, that watches your eyes and makes sure not only that your hands are on the wheel, but your eyes are on the road. And that is a great safety feature. Works very well on the Cadillac, and I expect to see this on a lot of vehicles. It's something Tesla doesn't have. A little camera right here, currently unused. There's a speed limit assist that'll warn you if you're going too fast. It knows the speed limit everywhere I've gone so far. I think that's fantastic. The lane keeping system does a very good job. You can adjust its aggressiveness. Pre-collision assist, every vehicle ought to have this. Emergency braking, evasive steering. This will keep you out of an accident in many cases. Blind spot information system. This Bliss is something that Ford's had for some time. It is a part of the side mirrors. It lets you know when somebody's in your blind spot with an alert light and a tone if you want. And I think that's great. Cross traffic alert's great when you're backing in and out. It'll help you with the camera when in reverse, so you can see. It's fairly wide angle. Cars that may even be invisible to you in the parking spot, but are coming across your line of the drive. A lot of really nice features on this. The vehicle itself also has a ton of features. You see, I'm going through all the settings. There are an awful lot of settings in this car. Power down timer, rear occupant alert, on and on and on.
Mach-E means that when you get in the car, either with your phone or the fob, it'll know most of your settings and it'll adjust this even down to your media preferences, things like that. I'm not going to go through every setting here, but you can see there are quite a few settings. This is this is software, this is a software-driven vehicle, and there's a lot going on with it, much like on the Tesla. Here's the vehicle hotspot passengers in the car can use to get online. I'm going to turn that off. We never use this. And here's system updates. This is great. It means it will automatically update over the air. As I said, I just got an update. Didn't change anything dramatically. Probably refined a few little things. I'm hoping phone as a key will be more reliable. It has been so far. So all of those features are nice. Now, this logo here is my custom logo. Everybody who has phone as a key or a fob can have a different logo. This is the My Key settings. And these are settings that are unique to me, the way I want it. The Ford has built in a lot of software. It has Waze built in, but it's slow. I don't think the processor's that fast. I think it's just there because, well, there might be somebody who doesn't have a smartphone using this vehicle. So they give you, things like Waze navigation built into the vehicle. But for most people with CarPlay or Android Auto, they're going to end up using that. So I'm going to stick with my CarPlay. You want to go for a ride? I thought you'd never asked. When you first turn it on, you get a big gauge that kind of shows you the battery life. And then you'll see we have the percentage battery life left, my estimated range. This refines over time based on how you drive. That little weird logo there shows that I've got one pedal driving turned on. This is the lane keeping mode. There's one passenger. Right now it's me. Got my seatbelt on. This is, of course, the odometer. It's electronic and shows it's a pretty new car, only 593 miles. So I'm going to put it in drive mode. And let's go for a ride. I'm going to put the pedal to the metal, and you're going to see some of the acceleration. In the Tesla, in order to engage ludicrous mode or insane mode, you had to press both the brake and the accelerator pedal all at once. You had to do all sorts of tricks. It was really, as I think are in a lot of things in the Tesla, it was really more about showing off, kind of a cool feature than something you would actually use. Ford doesn't play any of those games. Basically, it's a vehicle. They've designed quite a few of these over the last 100 years. You push the accelerator, it goes. And in this case, if you go push the accelerator to the floor, it goes pretty fast. You ready? That was just a few seconds to get to 40 miles an hour. And that's more than enough acceleration for me, or I think for anybody else. In fact, every time I do that in the Tesla, and even in this car, I start to red out a little bit. My head feels a little funny. That's not a good feeling. So I don't do it very often.
This episode of Hands on Tech is brought to you by Casper. Love your tomorrow with Casper. The new Casper cooling collection has everything you need to help you sleep cool all night long. Casper's mattresses with new snow technology, hyper light sheets, lightweight duvets, and breathable mattress protector are all designed to keep you cool and comfortable, so you can't help but love your tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. Make the most of it with Casper's new cooling collection. Casper's Wave Hybrid Snow Mattress keeps you cool for 12-plus hours, pulling heat away from your body for sustained temperature regulation, a cool-to-the-touch feeling, and a much-improved tomorrow. And better bedding makes for a better tomorrow, which is why Casper's Hyperlight sheets are designed with an innovative grid weave that lets air flow through for maximum breathability. The lightweight duvet provides optimal temperature control without sacrificing plush comfort. Casper's breathable mattress protector improves the coolness of the bed even further by allowing air to flow between your body and mattress. All of these designed to work together to prevent overheating all night, because cooler sleep means better sleep. And better sleep means better tomorrows. As always, Casper offers free shipping and free returns. We just got a brand new Casper mattress. Add that to the family of Casper mattresses. My sister-in-law has one. My daughter has one. My son has one. We all have Caspers, and we all love them. When it comes to a better night's sleep, Casper's new cooling collection has you covered. Focus on tomorrow. Let Casper handle the rest. Explore Casper products, mattresses, sheets, pillows, and more at casper.com/twit1 and use the code TWIT1 for $100 off select mattresses. That's code TWIT1 for $100 off select mattresses. Offer excludes the snow mattresses. See Casper.com for more details.
The batteries on this are in the skateboard below. That gives it a very low center of gravity, which means it's pretty stable as we take turns. It is not nimble in any way. It's a very heavy vehicle because of those batteries. Certainly not as much fun to drive as some Tesla models. But again, I'm not looking for a sports car. I'm very happy with the drivability of this and the comfort of this. I don't need it to perform like a Ferrari. It's just, or even a Mustang, frankly. It's just a nice Ford EV. You get a lot of attention in this car as well. I mean, people love how it looks, even if they don't know it's an electric vehicle or anything about the Mach-E. People come up to me all the time and say, wow, what is that? Because it does look a little bit different. In fact, Ford did some interesting things in the body styling. They've used black trim in some places to kind of make it look slimmer and more aerodynamic than it actually is. But for an SUV, it's not a huge car. It's a very comfortable car. It's got good capacity, maybe not as much as the Model X, but pretty good capacity. It's got great rear seat comfort, even for tall people, and certainly for my family, they don't mind driving in the back seat of this at all. One of the best things about this, and I think you really can thank Ford for this, is that it's a very quiet, very comfortable ride. It's very smooth. These seats are great. They have lumbar support. You also remember the position of the seat based on your key, so it'll always be ready for you to get in. They didn't abandon all buttons. I like that about this car as well. There is on the right a stem for the windshield wiper, and you have intermittent and all of those features. Typical car features. Does a very good job. On the left, I've got my blinker and I've got my high beams. Of course, it's got auto high beams. I don't ever actually use those high beams. On steering wheel, affordances include the cruise control and lane keeping buttons here. I like it that they have physical buttons on these. On this side, there's a few different things. There's a simple volume control, but there's also an OK for the menus. I can skip track, go back to the previous track. This cues Siri or Google Voice, depending on which phone you've paired with it. What time is it?
On it.
Siri's not the sharpest tool in the shed. She's thinking.
Working on that.
Yes, I know. Call Lisa Laporte.
Calling Lisa Laporte mobile.
There's a little microphone here, and I love the CarPlay interface and all of that. This has a premium B&O sound system, which is part of the first edition package. It sounds great. I really love it. I guess my wife's not picking up, but that's okay because I'm going to listen to some music.
You're about to one, and you saw...
Or a podcast. All right, so let's talk a little bit about charging. In fact, maybe a little primer on charging in general. Your house has 120 volt electricity. In the electric car world, we call that level 1 charging, and it's slow, 3 to 5 miles an hour. That means it would take maybe a couple of days to charge up an 88 kilowatt hour battery. So what I've installed here, and this is the easiest thing to do, is not some fancy charger, but simply the kind of plug socket that you'd see for RV charging, maybe an electric washing machine or more likely dryer. This is 240 volts on a 40 amp circuit. So they call this level 2 charging. Now, when we got the Chevy Bolt, it didn't come with a level 2 charging cable. It only came with a 120 volt cable. Too slow, a level 1 charger, too slow really for anybody to use except in emergencies. Fortunately, we'd already put this in for the NEMA for the Tesla. As you can see, it's still labeled Tesla. Tesla came with an adapter. It has a proprietary connector on its vehicles, but it came with an adapter so it could use this NEMA 1450. For the Bolt, I ended up buying a third-party NEMA 1450 charger. I think this is about $270. it will tell you exactly what's going on. You can see 234.8 volts. And once it's plugged in, it'll show you how many amps it's pushing. It'll give you all the information you need. Let's go back to the Mach-E and show you the charging port. It's here on the front. And this is what most vehicles these days have for a charging port. It's called a CCS charger. Only the Tesla and I think the Nissan Leaf use something else. The Leaf uses an older standard called CHAdeMO. There are still quite a few CHAdeMO chargers all over the country. And of course, the Tesla uses its own proprietary charging. In fact, that was the reason I got a Tesla in the first place, is superchargers were everywhere. But now, thanks to Volkswagen's Dieselgate judgment, they've put $1 billion into building chargers all over the country. This is Electrify America. And these are what we call fast CCS charges or level 3 chargers. The amount of voltage and wattage will depend on the location and what your car is capable of, but it'll make a big difference. For home charging, I'm just going to plug in the level 2 charger that I purchased for the Bolt. It also uses CCS charging, so it's compatible with the Mach-E and pretty much all electric vehicles these days. It plugs in just like this. And you can see on the Mach-E there's a little informational LED display that shows how much charge it is currently has, and that it's in fact charging up even more. Generally speaking, when you want to charge an electric vehicle, you're going to do it not all the way, but to 80 or 90%. That's what the recommendations are for this Mach-E, up to 90%. It, of course, is doing its own kind of wear leveling on the batteries. You don't want to overuse any cell because you can wear it out, just like on your lithium-ion battery on your laptop. So they over-provision it, and they rotate it in order to keep the battery from wearing out. In general, if you don't need all the range, the 100% range, it's probably a good idea not to fully charge your battery each time. I don't. We won't charge right now because I want to show you Electrify America. So let me disconnect this, put this back on our specially built rack for the CHAdeMO charger, and the CCS charger. And are you ready? Well, let's go for a little bit of a ride over to the Electrify America charging outlet. Actually, I'm kind of lucky. There's one right across the street. I love the backup cameras on this. And as you can see above you, there's a great view of the sky. This is a non-opening sky roof that really, I think, is nice. It gives the cabin a much more open feeling. Had something like that on my Model X as well. So we're here at the Electrify America charging station. This is what you call fast CCS charging. DC charging is capable of a lot more, higher voltages, higher wattages. It's going to vary how fast you can charge depending on your car, the state of the charging station, how much electricity it has, how many other people are using it, so I can't give you an exact quote. But it can be as fast as 60 miles an hour of charging. So one of the things Ford's done, they have a Ford Pass app that allows me to just plug in, and it should automatically recognize the Ford and start charging. I have a credit card on file, so it'll start charging the credit card. Although Ford has given us early buyers of the Mach-E 250,000 kilowatt hours of charging. In fact, we got an additional 250,000 thanks to the delay. So 500,000 hours, kilowatt hours of charging. That's a couple of $1,000s worth of charging, depending on the prices. You'll see on the CCS charger on my vehicle, there's a little flap here. I open up that flap, that gives us 2 extra pins, and that's what this Electrify America Fast Level 3 charging will use. I'm going to disconnect the charger. You can see it has those 2 extra pins. Put it in here, and we're going to now test the capabilities of this fast CCS charging. All right, now that it's connected, we can go over and look and see if it recognized me. It's connecting the vehicle, that's a good sign. Notice it recognized my vehicle. It's initiating charging right off the bat. That's great. And I should be getting this for free because this is counting against my initial 250,000 kilowatt hours. So you can see here, this is about 43 cents per kilowatt hour. That's, that's not so different from what gasoline would cost. It's one of the reasons you probably don't want to use these fast chargers unless you're on a road trip. You could probably charge it for less at home. I know I can because I have solar panels, so it doesn't cost us anything to charge. Now that it's charging, it will also start to give you information about how long it's going to take. You see we're at 94% charge. It's currently at 8 kilowatts. We'll see how much faster it gets. It tends to speed up over time. Nobody else is using these, so I'm expecting I'll be able to charge up to 100% if I wanted to in about 15 minutes. Typically, you'd come here, you'd spend half an hour charging up, maybe go have a bite to eat, come back, and then head out back on the road. That's at least was my experience using the Tesla supercharger networks on long road trips. It's absolutely possible to do a cross-country trip using these Electrify America chargers. There are enough of them along the freeways all across the country. It's just something you have to add in, is that a little bit of extra time to charge up. It's a lot slower than it would be at a gas station. So that is one of the negatives on electric. For most people, you're not going to be charging at these chargers. You're going to be charging on your home charger because it's cheaper and you can do it overnight. So you start every day with a full tank in effect. All right, I'm not going to charge it up all the way here, so we'll stop. Now notice, and this is fairly typical in these, I can sit here for free for up to 10 minutes. Maybe I'm in a store and can come back. I'll get a notification on my phone that charging is done, so I will want to hustle back because they will start to charge you idle fees of a couple of bucks an hour after that grace period is over. Charging's done. Disconnect the charger now. You can see my Model E, my Mach-E says, oh yeah, you're done. It's blinking red. I'm going to disconnect, put this away. And it's as easy as that. It's really very much like going to a gas station, except there's no attendant, nobody to wash your window or check your oil because you don't have any oil. And it does take a little bit longer. But for people who are worried, and I think this is the number one worry for electric vehicles, the nice thing about Electrify America is now, like the supercharger network for Tesla, there are ways to charge almost all electric vehicles, almost all anywhere in the country, and now almost all over the world. Well, I'm headed out on the road. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of my new Ford Mach-E. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them on our forum at twit.community or on twit.social, our Mastodon instance. I'll be glad to answer them there or maybe do a follow-up. We have a first look from Sam Abul-Samad, who's much more of a car guy, also on our hot feed. So if you want to take a look at that earlier video, please do. Sam has a lot more details. This is just really my opinion after owning this car for about a month. I really love it. I think to some degree, look at that. See, it's telling me I'm in a school zone. I love features like that. To some degree, I think this is a better car than my Model X was. It's in some ways reminds me of a refined Tesla Model X. I really like it. And it doesn't have any of the weird software glitches or the strange Falcon Wing doors that my Model X had. I am very happy with the Ford Mach-E. Thanks for watching. I'm Leo Laporte. Let's drive.
No ads, just the content. That's what you get when you join Club Twit. You even get extras like Twit Plus, our new bonus feed just for members, and exclusive access to the Club Twit Discord community. Join now for just $7 a month and support Twit as we continue to create top-notch podcasts you expect and deserve. We're just getting started, so be one of the first to join as we build Club Twit from the ground up. You could be an early member. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to learn more and sign up now. Thanks. Keep up with all the hottest tech news and gadgets. Visit twit.tv. There you'll be able to find and subscribe to all our tech shows. Thanks for watching Hands on Tech.